My gosh, what an ending to what a show. What's up, wrestling world? I'm Andy Perez, and it is Beach Break, baby. We have tropical apparel here. We have a little bit of dessert wine. We have the 36-degree American Midwest forecast outside, and joining us on this beach, we have a great friend of the show and the host of the 411 On Wrestling podcast, Mr. Blake Lovell. Blake, okay, before we get started, of course, people watching at home, make sure you like, subscribe, comment what you thought of the show, all that good stuff. But Blake, my main question is, was tonight's show worth missing out on Edge and NXT? And number two, what do you think of Kenta showing up at the end of tonight's episode of Dynamite? And also number three, how are you, my friend? How are you?
Yeah, no, doing well, Andy, as always. It seems like when we do these, something noteworthy happens all the time. I appreciate you being dressed for the occasion. Like you said, it is 30-something degrees. We're both around the same area, and I just decided to dress for the weather outside. So that's okay, but as we know, things heated up a bit at AEW Dynamite. My goodness, it was quite the ending. And it's so funny because we were having that discussion right before we went off there, like, oh yeah, Edge is on NXT tonight. And we're like, that's certainly noteworthy. And now I'm like, well, I wonder what AEW is going to do. And well, looks like we found out, right? Kenta, which you and I talked about, it's probably been 2 months now. We had that discussion. We were like, all right, is Kenta come in? Like all the teases. And of course, it winds up like Sting comes. And then here we are, however many months or how many weeks later. And all of a sudden Kenta's here. And it's like, I mean, hey, we will say this. They keep saying that they're Don Callis, Kenny Omega, all that. They keep saying that they're trying to change the industry, like they're trying to do all these things. Well, add tonight to another layer to that. So
yeah, if you guys want to go back and watch old episodes of Dissecting Dynamite, feel free, because Blake and I were talking about this all the way back to when Moxley was first attacked, when Kenny Omega and Moxley were first supposed to match up. At the beginning of November or something like that. But,
yeah.
So yeah, quite a while. It's been, I guess, building up in our subconscious, and now we finally have this explosion. So if you're watching at home, make sure you leave a comment in the chat. Tell us what you thought about that crazy ending to Dynamite. We're sure to touch on it later on as we're breaking down the show. But until then, we started off the show with Jungle Boy's absolute bop of a theme. So I was in good spirits right off the bat because we had this tag team battle royal coming in. We had lots of stories coming into this one. We had the Young Bucks potentially challenging the Good Brothers being teased last week. We have the Inner Circle continuing to fall apart, which we'll talk about in even more detail later on. We have FTR getting, suspended last week. We have Jungle Boy coming off the win of a career. Private Party and Matt Hardy challenging for the Impact Tag titles. I mean, you're looking in every which direction, and you have something new and something cool going on. What was on your mind going into this match, and what did you think of the Tag Team Battle Royal?
Yeah, I mean, we had this conversation last week we're like, okay, well, the Young Bucks are in this thing now, right? And we're like, does that mean that they're going to win this? And it's, we're going to have a situation where it sets up, the Young Bucks and Gallows and Anderson and all like just all these other possibilities we knew we could see. Like, we were like, okay, what are we going to get here? And like you said, I thought it was a great start with Jungle Boy's music. It's just, I mean, it is the new thing now. Like every time I hear this music, I promise you, Andy, it stays in my head for 3 days. Like I know now, like I'm going to start looking ahead. Saturday, Sunday, maybe it leaves, but right now it's still there. Like I want to sing it, but I'm not going to on our show right now. But
don't want to get a copyright strike. Yeah.
No, we don't want to do that. So it was a great match. Like I said, going into the match, we knew it was just going to be chaos. Like we knew there were going to be bodies flying everywhere. And that's kind of really, literally from the start, you had bodies flying all over the place. And so what a stacked group in there, though. You think, like, I think that was the biggest thing that I took away from this first. It's just like, look at all these tag teams that they have. And we talk about it so much, but I think like in a match like this, it really stands out because you're like, my goodness, like, I mean, top flights in there, like Darius Martin, like he could have been like the star of this match. Like Darius Martin's in there, just a star all the way to the end with Jericho. And it's just, I thought this was really good. And again, I think it just showcased the strength of this entire tag team division.
Yeah, a lot of fun spots being showcased throughout. We had
Yeah.
Grayson literally full weight hanging on Hager's waist, trying to sunset powerbomb him over. We have John Silver coming out and eliminating Jake Hager. I'm sure nobody saw that coming. We had John Silver also getting a pretty big power spot in there as well. We have Matt Jackson eliminated with a nasty back body drop over the top rope onto the ramp. Luchasaurus gets his own monster spot, taking everybody out in the middle of the match. Of course, the Good Brothers have to come in and try to assist the Young Bucks, but Nick Jackson ended up being eliminated by MJF. Great Young Bucks pose pulled off by Chris Jericho and MJF then as well. And then we have Les Sex Gods, Max Kester, Les Gods and Max Kester in the final three, and then Jericho inadvertently eliminating Sammy, and then hits a brutal Judas effect for the win. We keep seeing the cracks build between the inner circle, particularly Sammy getting the short end of the stick on multiple occasions. We might as well go ahead and jump to later in the night because we had a very, very interesting promo go on, catching up with Jericho and MJF in the back. And we saw Sammy's reaction, and then we saw MJF's reaction to Sammy's reaction. A whole lot going on. What did you think of the development of this story on tonight's episode of Dynamite?
Yeah, I mean, we've said it before, haven't we, about my guy Sammy and the future babyface star that he is. And I think we had another seed of that tonight because he's not having it anymore. Mm-mm. Like, he's fed up. He's done with him. He's not happy. And so I think, it's very interesting, I think, the direction they're going in because, now the tag team match that you're going to have at Revolution, it's like we didn't completely expect that. Maybe we should have because we're thinking, okay, you've got Jericho and MJF doing their thing, and I think it's at least an interesting match now when you think about it with the Bucks. But it's also like we've said many times, Andy. Okay, what's going to happen with everybody else? Like, is this that point where maybe there's some sort of turn for someone like when it comes to the inner circle and all this? Maybe, because it's a pretty big spot, and so I'm thinking ahead. I'm like, all right, well, what are we gonna get here? Is this Sammy? Like, what's gonna happen? And so I'm very fascinated by this. But we've said it so many times. It's just you never know what direction they're going. I think this was another case of that. It was, we didn't really know that this was going to be the direction they were headed in, but now that they are, you've got all these seeds, all these different things that are kind of planted. And once again, you've got MJF just sitting there as the guy we know is up to something. We just don't know what it is, but we know this guy is up to something. So that's part of the fun. So
yeah, definitely, just quite the scheming little mastermind MJF is. If you pay attention to him, while Sammy is throwing his little fit, MJF has like this evil little smirk in the back, and when Jericho and Sammy exit the room, you see MJF give that little smirk as well. We saw it way back when MJF first won against Jericho back at, what was that? Was that Full Gear? It was so long ago now.
Yeah, they run together. Last year was a long year. Let's be honest. So.
Oh my gosh, it's crazy. It's crazy. But yeah, MJF. Looks like he's going to be scheming to perhaps turn the rest of the group against Sammy, which is really, really interesting. And Sammy, I think at this point he has my heart. He has been taking bumps for the past year and a half for this group. He's been the main bump man, and now they're gonna oust him when he.
I know
it's brutal. We have TGV back in the chat this week, and it looks like they're looking to pick a fight with WWE. We have them saying, meanwhile, Vince is pushing a broken down old timer with a bad neck. You're talking about Edge that way? You're talking about NXT?
Hey, I'm a big Edge fan.
Yeah.
Big Edge fan.
Oh, man. So, yeah, if you want to let us know what you thought about the Rumble, go ahead and drop those comments in the chat as well. But also, we had a Battle Royal tonight as well as a Lumberjack match, so make sure you drop a comment. Let us know what you thought about those. Leading into after this tag team battle royal, we had quite a video package hyping Jade. obviously they're going all in on her. If this whole storyline with Shaq isn't any indication enough, a badass video package shows her as just an elite top level athlete. And she has a pretty badass logo too. Did you see that logo that popped up at the end of
Yeah.
the video package? And then in addition to that, later in the night we see Shaq give his reply to Cody, basically picking a fight, and it looks like this isn't going to be at Revolution like we previously predicted. It looks like this is going up
Yeah.
on AEW Dynamite. We're getting this on free television, the match of a century. We have Jade and Shaq going up against Cody Rhodes. And what did Shaq call Red Velvet? He called her Red Carrot Cake,
Red
Red
pumpkin.
Pumpkin.
So I don't know. He was. I think he. Yeah, it was something like that.
But what are your guys' thoughts? And oh yeah, we have BDC Drummer in the chat saying, "I know you're going in order, but Kenta, we already marked out about Kenta at the beginning of this. Don't worry, we're going to do it a bit more at the end." So don't worry about that. But yeah, what did you think of this whole Shaq situation? What did you think of the Jade video package? You guys watching at home, what did you think about all this going on as well? And if yeah, what'd you guys think? What'd you guys think?
Here's the thing, Andy. What I want to know is, Ric Flair world title wins and Jade's abs. I feel like those are about the same number at this point because my goodness, you said she's an incredible athlete. She is in incredible shape, and I'm very curious to see how this match plays out because, like you said, we kept hyping it up. We're like, all right, surely they're going to do this for Revolution, right? But it looks like they're going to go the tag team route where they do it on, and we thought there was going to be tag team, but they're going to do it on Dynamite. And you and I were kind of discussing this as the show was going along. I assume it's because it's a TNT thing, and because they have Shaq's inside the NBA and all this stuff.
Please,
and
Inside
they've
the
already
NBA is actually a direct competitor of Dissecting Dynamite, so don't give them airtime.
That is
please.
true. That's true. We don't want to mention their names, but the show that shall not be mentioned, Shaq is part of that, and I think what we're heading towards here is just they want to be able to appeal to that audience. I think of just like, okay, Shaq is wrestling on free television. Let's get some eyeballs on this thing because the last time they did it was the late night Dynamite, and you and I were talking about it. The biggest thing coming out of that was everybody making fun of Chris Jericho. And we know that didn't really turn out in terms of the NBA audience that had not seen Jericho in a long time. But I think this is different because it is Shaq, and you're like, okay, Shaq wrestling. There's going to be a lot more eyeballs on it. If you put it on pay-per-view, maybe you run the risk of it's not that audience that, maybe is tuning into something else or there's something else going on a Saturday or Sunday or whatever, versus doing it during the week, on the station that NBA fans are used to watching these high-profile games on and watching Shaq on the other show. So I think that's probably what went into the thinking here. My guess is, they do this, but then, Andy, my question is this. Like, do they follow that up like with something at Revolution? Like, where do they go after it? Is what I'm very curious to see what they do with that.
Yeah, perhaps it could be hype for Revolution. Who knows? Maybe they do follow up with a return match. Because I mean,
they're not going to do Cody versus Shaq, are they? Like a one-on-one. I don't know. Like that's I don't know. I don't think they're going to do it, but you know what? It's wrestling, and I can't say that I think that's completely an impossibility.
And if they do just do Shaq versus Cody, I can mark that one off my bucket list because that is one of my unadulterated dream matches. So I can't wait for that.
Yep.
TGV isn't very hopeful about the Shaq situation either. He said, or he or she, they say that it's smart to have Shaq on Dynamite. That said, that train wreck is what it will be. They continued their thoughts for Dynamite, saying at least a 7.5. Happy to see James Mitchell, considering the last wedding he did ended with a ended with a murder.
It did. Ended up with a shooting. So, yes.
but yeah, we might as well go ahead and talk about the wedding. Nice little segue. We'll wrap back around to Sting and Darby Allin, the Britt Baker Thunder Rosa situation. But the wedding was it's been hyped up to this night for weeks now. And when I was putting on this wonderful tropical shirt, when I was getting my dessert wine put together, my girlfriend asks me, she goes, "Oh, is tonight the beach date night on the wrestling show?" And I go, "Beach date night. That is close enough. I'm glad that you're watching."
Yep.
So, but yeah, what did you think of the Kip and Penelope wedding? We had the Sinister Minister back. We had Jerry Lynn acting as Penelope Ford's father. We had a penis joke that fell a bit flaccid. We had Miro ensuring that there would be no interruptions or people popping out of presents. Instead, we had OC
Yep.
popping out of a cake. In addition to some other little goings ons with the handcuffs. Oh my! So much going on during this wedding. Seems the
Yep.
crowd got a little preoccupied with their own solo performance. But what did you think, and what did you guys watching at home think of this wedding as well?
Yeah, I mean, I think Jim Ross probably put it like he's like, I've seen a lot of wrestling weddings, and as soon as he said that, I'm like, yeah, I have too. And I thought about it, I'm like, I've seen a lot of weddings in wrestling, and I have no idea what to expect. Like it's just every time you feel like you're gonna get something different. I am I don't know, like I don't know what the takeaway is from this thing. Like I feel like we kind of knew this was what was gonna happen. Orange Cassidy and the cake. That's funny. Like you knew this guy was going to be around there somewhere. So I thought that was kind of funny. And I think at the end, like you knew there was going to be something involving Chuck Taylor, or excuse me, Andy, Charles Taylor.
Thank you.
I
Thank
think
you.
we knew. I know. I'm sorry. I'll tell you one thing I thought though, and then I was like, if Vince McMahon was booking this wedding, whenever I think Charles Taylor or Chuck Taylor, I'm gonna whatever. He got the glasses of, was it the glass of champagne? I think there were like three of them, and he gave them to Miro, maybe, or vice versa. Something they had like the three
Yeah.
glasses. You know what I'm thinking at the time? I'm thinking, okay, I feel like if this was like a WWE thing, and this is not a knock on WWE, it's like we know the kind of jokes though that we love over there. Like it's the Vince McMahon humor kind of stuff. I was like, this is going to be one of those things where they're all going to drink the champagne, and then like Chuck Taylor's going to say, that's my euro. Like I pee, like that's pee, and not champagne. I promise you, Andy, like that must be from just watching so much WWE over the years. That was my first thought of this wedding. I'm like, how is this going to end? And as soon as I saw those three glasses, I'm thinking, there's pee in there. Like, that's exactly what I thought. I'm like, all right, hold on. Let's see if it goes there. If it did, I was going to be like, man, I've really watched way too many wrestling weddings if that's what actually happened. But I think it wound up being a little bit better of a finish. But like you said, it was, I think, by all accounts, like this was not, was this a very memorable wrestling wedding? No, but I don't know that we ever thought it was just going to be this over the top, insane type of thing. But still, like it was entertaining for what it was.
Most definitely, most definitely. And thank you, TGV, for joining us again this week. We hope to see you again soon. But yeah, I had similar thoughts. I was maybe a tad bit underwhelmed by the wedding just because it had been built up so heavily leading into it.
Yeah.
I didn't know what my expectations were going into it. We could have gone a variety of directions. As Russo said, he's been involved in these types of things before, and they usually tend to go sideways. But yeah, I was initially scoping out the scene. I'm like, okay, there's a huge present there. There's the cake there. There's something's going wrong. And of course, it didn't go down exactly the way I expected. But I'm always glad to see Mr. Orange Cassidy on my television screen, so I couldn't complain too much. But let's go ahead and wrap back around because we had Sting and Darby Allin with their own promo, and the live cinematography on the Sting entrance is always great, but it really hit a certain way tonight. I don't know what it was about it, but the way they sweeped, it was just beautiful. But then
Yeah.
Team Taz interrupting from not even inside the building. We had both Team Taz and FTR both suspended this week, and somehow they both still got their say. And we had Ricky Starks cut quite a promo on Sting and Darby. And yeah, what did you think of this segment here? And you guys watching at home, what did you guys think of Sting and Darby Allin? And what are your guys' hopes and dreams moving into this moving into the street fight at Revolution.
You know I love my guy Ricky Starks. He's my guy, and I thought it was it was pretty fun to see how they did it. And I think Team Taz, like Taz, just does not. He just doesn't care. Like this guy is just on a roll right now. His promos are just great. Like he's just out there calling like all these conspiracy theories. Like he's just. I mean, he is great. Like in his role, I just think it's so fun to have Taz like back in this kind of role. But then Ricky Starks, I thought it was really as usual, like this guy is great on the mic. And then, to have Sting kind of sell it the way he did, where, the camera zooms in and you're just like really looking into his eyes. I thought, he kind of hinted at, maybe getting a little physical with Ricky Starks. Like maybe Sting's going to go after Ricky Starks next week. We'll see. But then, we know what we're getting as well once we get to the actual match at Revolution. So I really like the dynamic here. I know people keep saying, if they bring Sting back every week, at some point it's going to get old. You know what? I mean, here's the thing. Like the reason, like when they brought Sting back, we were excited for what? Because we got to see him.
Right.
We wanted to see this guy, and I mean that's why he's there. Like they're not just going to have him sit back there and do nothing for 4 months. So I think that's something too. He's not going to be wrestling every week. We know that now. I think having the way they're using him, putting him around someone like Darby Allin, I think it's the best way they could use him, because again, you're not going to have Sting out there challenging Kenny Omega for the world title. He's not going to be out there wrestling a match every single week. And I think that's just the way they're using him is great, because it's going to give Darby Allin something. It's going to give Ricky Starks something, and whoever else, like all these other guys, they're getting something out of this. So I think that's at least the way to use him.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, there have of course been criticisms of Sting's involvement and maybe like the repetitive nature of his appearances on Dynamite. Yeah. But we've already seen the benefits that this story has done for Ricky Starks and the amount of screen time that he's been getting. This promo in particular, putting Sting on blast, really a highlight of the night for me at least. And then in Sting's reply promo, I mean, like it's no fluke that he's been such a star for so long. I mean, to this day, he just oozes that charisma, that excitement, that passion every time that he speaks. I mean, he could be like speaking tongues or something, and he can get a crowd hyped. But definitely a lot of intrigue for me still moving into this street fight. Just seeing how that they're going to present it. Of course, we had Excalibur on commentary saying that he's excited because he's never gotten to call anything in relation to Sting. Who knows how this match is going to be presented? Of course, we've speculated that it has to be some sort of a cinematic match just to protect Sting in his current state and everything. But the intricacies of it, they remain to be seen. But we had Britt Baker versus Thunder Rosa on the card tonight. Possibly my two consistently favorite performers in the AEW's current women's division. And for completely different reasons, too. Of course, Thunder Rosa, with her crazy performances against Serena Deeb, putting on possibly the highest quality of women's matches that we've seen so far in Dynamite. On the other side of the thing, we have Britt Baker just doing some amazing character work throughout this entire pandemic, really. Yeah. And these two finally coming together to clash, and it didn't end in a pretty fashion, I'll tell you that. A lot of brutal areas of this match. We had Thunder Rosa's like corner drop kicks and seated drop kicks and stuff like that they always look just so brutal to me. We have a crazy Death Valley driver back on the ramp. JR saying, stay in the ring where you have a better chance of surviving. I mean, I really felt that one like in my core when she got dropped down on the ramp. Britt Baker with a cool looking sling blade and a wonderful super kick. Good looking air raid crowd. Yeah, a lot of good offense going on in this match. What did you think of this matchup?
Yeah, I thought this was exactly what they needed, right? For all these conversations we've had about this division, like I feel like this was exactly what they needed. Like this was really, really good. Easily one of their best women's matches I think they've had on in a while. I thought this because it'd been built up, right? And that's what you and I have always talked about. It's not just the matches. Like you have to have something behind it. Like there has to be some sort of story. And like this is the one I feel like they've gotten right versus some of the others. Like even we talked about Sheeta and Abaddon. Like that was fine, but I don't think it got to the level that we've gotten to with Britt Baker and Thunder
Right.
Rosa. Like I just think it's different, and it just feels different. And I think that's what they need more of. Like they need more feuds like this that they build up over a month or more, because otherwise, you just have, again, we've said it so many times about Sheeta. Like where is she at? Like she's not even like a main, like she's just waiting around at this point,
Mhm.
right? For the winner of this tournament. And so I think that's the thing is it's just you want to like see them take like two steps forward instead of maybe sometimes like one step forward, one step back. But I think this was a big step in the right direction. Like to have this, knowing that this was a big match because they've been building it and building it, and I think they delivered. I really thought that they had a really good match. No surprise, we've said it many times. Like Britt Baker, character-wise, is like the best that they have, just in terms of her character work and all this other stuff. So I thought this was the way to do it, and you put her in there with someone as good as Thunder Rosa. They delivered, and again, this is exactly what this division needed, I thought.
Definitely. And speaking of exactly what the division needs, this women's number one contender tournament that you mentioned coming up, we
Yep.
finally got some names dropped, and legitimately some of the best performers in the world
Yep.
putting their names in the hat for this number one contender tournament, coming from both Japan and the U.S. I mean, like you said, the women seem to be getting more and more focus put on them. Thankfully, I mean, we've been asking for it for a while now. The world has, and
Yep.
this can be like a really really exciting look at the future of the AEW women's division. Just looking at some of the names that we have already going on in this tournament, do you have a pick of somebody that you're particularly looking out for? Some matchups that some potential matchups that've got you riled up. I mean, who's going to come out on top of this tournament? Because I, I mean, there's just so much potential.
Yeah, there is, and I mean, because you've got it split the way that they have it split, where you have the Japanese bracket and you have the U.S. bracket, and you're like, my goodness, if you just look at the Japanese bracket, it's like, my goodness, look at all of these talents in there. And it's, again, if you've seen some of these, women perform before, it's like, wow, this is a tournament. Like this, that's the
Mhm.
thing. Like it feels like a tournament. Like this is great. And then you look at like the US bracket, and it's all of those names that we would probably expect to be in there. And I'm a huge fan of Layla Hirsch. Like I don't know if I don't think she's going to win the tournament, but I just like the fact that she's being put in there because that clearly means that AEW understands that like she's
Mhm.
legit, no pun intended. Like because she is like she I think is very different and would be great for someone to have her in the division on a weekly basis. But then Andy, you've got Riho back now. You've got Britt Baker coming off this win. I mean, you have to feel like she's one of the favorites to maybe eventually win the title, or do they just completely? I don't know. Like, do they catapult someone else up there? Like an Anna Jay, or do they do one of those like run through a tournament of just someone just coming out of nowhere, which could be like a Layla Hirsch. I don't know, but I think there's. I love tournaments.
Yeah.
Like, let's just put it like I love tournaments. Like, I made the joke I think in my AEW Dark review this week. Like, you could do a favorite cereals tournament, and I would be all in. Like anything, any type of tournament, I'm in it and I'm really looking forward to this because it seems like they picked the right people to be in this. Knowing that we're going to get some good matches because they have announced, Serena Deeb versus Riho, which that's going to be a great match in and of itself. So this should be a lot of fun.
Right, I'm right there with you with the tournaments. Even like the random brackets that pop up in like Facebook
Yeah,
memes or something like that. Like pick Drake's best song. It's like I don't even listen to Drake, but I'll play along. I mean, let's see.
it's
Yeah,
tough. It is tough.
let's see what's going on. But moving past that a little bit, we have. A few more matches that we have to break down. Might as well skip over Matt Hardy and Hangman versus Luther and Serpentico. A lot
Yeah.
going on in this match. Going on with the story. I really enjoy Matt Hardy's current character, bringing back Big Money Matt. And of course, just this role of him being like this ruthless agent or ruthless manager pursuing people like Adam Page. I feel like he's really slipped into it. I'm probably enjoying this iteration of him more than Broken Matt when he first came into AEW, but that may be influenced by some matches with Sammy Guevara. But I'm not gonna trudge through that again. We had Lance Archer versus Eddie Kingston in a return match from last week. I watched the last one begrudgingly on YouTube, and I enjoyed it. And this
Yep.
is my type of matchup. I mean, these two big hosses, lumberjack matches, on the other hand, not my type of matchup. But this one was pretty bomb. We had Eddie Kingston fighting outsiders. We had Lance Archer adopting the big Undertaker dive. We had a lot of good stuff going on in this match. What did you think of this lumberjack match? And what are they going to do with Eddie Kingston now? Because Lance Archer continues to be flirting with this main storyline with Kenny Omega and the Good Brothers. Eddie Kingston picked up a dirty win last week, but other than that, he's had a few big losses over the past few months. Where do you see these guys going?
The thing about Kingston, I feel like at this point is like you can put him anywhere, and just because he's so good on the mic, like he's gonna make it work. Like I feel like it doesn't even matter what they do with him. So I feel like he is. It's crazy to think, right? Because he came in for that match with Cody, and he is just look how far he's come in terms of just being one of those guys they can literally put anywhere, and he'll find a way to make it work. So I feel like they have that flexibility with someone like him. But Archer, you and I talked about him. Like we'll talk about the main event in a second, but I mean, this guy is, I don't know. I feel like they're setting him up for something. I just don't know what it is. Like, I feel like they certainly have something in mind for him because he's been in these pretty significant roles here recently. Getting this win in a match like this and then doing what he did in after the main event. I'm very curious to see what they do with him because, I like you, Andy. I mean, watching him in New Japan, like last year, you could argue that he was like one of the breakout stars of the year, probably, or not last year, the year before.
Right.
Like
It's all running together now.
Yeah, but I know it is. I'm like, it's 2021. I forget sometimes, but that run he had, it's just like he really came into his own, and I think it's something where this guy's so good because you just talked about it, like being able to do what he can do at his size. I'm very curious to see what they do with him because he is someone I think that has a lot of potential. They've got Jake with him. I don't know what they're. I don't know that it's going to be the world title, but I feel like there are a lot of directions you can go with Lance Archer at this point.
Yeah, as a performer, he has just a certain electricity behind him that I hadn't noticed with him up until, like you said, his last big run with New Japan. But yeah, other than the main event and Tully taking Marco Stunt hostage, which I'm excited to see the development of. We don't have much left to cover. But yeah, back in the chat, BDC drummer, they were saying, I know we're going in order, but Kenta, we're getting to that now because the main event, we had Kenny Omega and the Good Brothers facing off against Mox, Pac, and Fenix in quite the main event. We were commenting on it, watching it together, and we were saying the last like 8 to 10 minute run of this match was just pure fire. Like I felt the heat coming through my screen. It was something to behold, seeing all these performers mix and match in the ring together. And gosh, sometimes you forget how great of a performer Carl Anderson is. You forget the intensity that Mox has behind every movement. You forget the extra flair that Kenny Omega puts in each and every step that he has in the ring. Just so much blending together in this main event. So much to love, so much to watch. But all of that is not going to be in the press releases tomorrow morning. What's going to read is Kenta arrives in AEW, staking his claim against Jon Moxley once more, returning the beatdown that Moxley attempted to give at New Japan US. But what did you think of this going on? And you mentioned it before we hopped on the show. Kenny Omega and Don Callis are looking to change the business, and they continue to do so in more and more unexpected ways. What did you think of this, Blake? And you guys watching at home, drop your thoughts. What do you think of Kenta in AEW?
Well, Andy, we were, like I said, we were probably 3 months too early on this. We kept thinking we were going to get it, November, whenever that was. But now we've got it, and I think we kept going back to the conversation. We're like, this pandemic, man. If we did not have this pandemic, we probably could have got this a year ago. Like we could have gotten this so long ago. But you know what? Like now we're getting it, and we can be happy with it because we kept saying all the mentions, about New Japan and all the little teases here and there, and mentioning on commentary, and you had what was it, Tanahashi did the birthday thing for Jericho, and all of these different things that they started to add in as we went along here, and the Bullet Club and just everything that has come along with that. You had to know in the back of your mind, because I think we're still in that phase. Like, even though this is happening, we're like, can this really continue, like, to develop to where we get New Japan involved? Because it's like we're so, again, it goes back to, like, we're just, I think sometimes we're just still so ingrained for so many years since WWE bought WCW. It's like, I think we're just so used to just knowing that, like, there's one company out there that, like, everything sort of feeds into, and you just don't have a lot of stuff that's going anywhere else. Like, it's, you have such a big roster that it's, you're trying to do everything within one company. But now it's like with AEW, you're all over the place. Like, it's Impact, it's New Japan, like, it's, it was the NWA, like, all those different things. And I think as we see this thing develop, it's like, my goodness, man, they can literally do anything, like, probably outside of working with WWE at this point. Like, that's probably the only thing they can't do right now, but everything else they can do. And I think when you see that type of power, you're like, well, what are they going to do next? And I think that's what makes it great, because we know we're going to get Kenta and Moxley on the New Japan Strong, but, like, what, this is much bigger than that. I think this wasn't just hyping up that match. Like, this is a much bigger conversation about, okay, well, now what's possible with other people? Like, who's going where? Like, I think there's just, my goodness, it's running through my head right now. I can't even keep up with all the possibilities that we could see out of this. But Kenta and AEW, we again, 3 months too early, maybe, on that. So
Right. Not enough can be said. I mean, there are some people that come in through the front door, and then there are some people that come in with a wrecking ball. And this has certainly cracked open an entire world of possibilities between New Japan and AEW that you can't even begin to think about, or else your brain will begin to hurt, or else, I don't know, your nipples will get hard, or I mean, like there's so much. There's so much here to, like you said, there's so much here to unpack. We have the partnership with Impact that's currently going on, and some mingling, maybe not to the degree that we initially thought, but still, like, we have Private Party going to challenge for the tag team titles. We had Kenny Omega main event to pay-per-view, and now we have one of New Japan's top stars appearing on AEW television. And gosh, there's just so much to love. For me, to no surprise, my diamond of the week has to go to that main event spot. That whole situation with Kenta. You can try to disagree. You can try to pick something else. Go ahead, Blake. You guys watching at home, make sure you let us know what your favorite moment of the week was as well. Blake, what do you think?
Well, I would obviously go with that too. I guess to be different, to give us a little variety, I will go with the Britt Baker Thunder Rosa match, because I thought it was very important. So I'm going to give that as my Dynamite Diamond of the Week. I thought it was significant for the women's division. You've already given the biggest diamond there is to Kenta, so I'm going to give a little bit smaller of a diamond to the ladies, because I thought they put on a really good match. I thought AEW's women's division needed it. Now we got this tournament. Little positive momentum with the women's division as well.
Most definitely. But with every bit of good, there's of course going to be a bit of bad. What would you say the dud of the week for you was?
That's a good question. I'm sorry, I'm laughing at this answer, because the dud of the week, Andy, goes back to what I said earlier. The fact that there was not urine in the champagne glasses, because I expect that from weddings in professional wrestling. So, you know what? That is my dud of the week. I thought they really, for Chuck Taylor to kind of sneak off, the man drank a lot of water. What can he say? And he decided that he just needed to use the glasses. There you go. There's my
just to make you feel better, maybe after the show I'll do it myself. Who knows?
There you go.
But yeah, my dud of the week. Gosh, there's not a lot to dislike, but I had a certain just like pure like hatred and disgust whenever I heard the phrase "Cupcake Cody" or "Cody Cupcake." So I don't want to see that on a T-shirt. So maybe I'll go and I'll pick that one. But we're going to end it on a positive note this week. We have the wrestler of the week still to choose. You guys watching at home, who would you say your wrestler of the week is? Blake, who gets the top prize?
Boy, it's a tough one. I'm gonna go with Britt Baker. I'm gonna stay on the women's team here because again, I was very pleased by that match. I've been someone that's talked about this division for a while now. I'm gonna go with Britt Baker. I thought that was again a very impressive match, and I will go with her to keep the women's team
All
going.
right, maybe I'll keep the women's team going as well because this may have been the first time I've ever heard Penelope Ford speak. I think, and and
Maybe.
I know it takes a. I mean, I come from a theater background. I know it takes a lot to put yourself out there, especially when you have to deliver a line of dialogue. When your only line of dialogue is a penis joke, it can't be easy. So I'll give her my wrestler of the week just to continue the theme. But yeah,
Yep.
besides that, we have a big show next week. We have Joey Janela facing off for the TNT title, amongst other things. But you won't hear it from here. We're taking the week off next week. Next week, there won't be a Dissecting Dynamite, but you still have a whole lot of cool content to watch on the 411 Mania YouTube channel. So make sure you check that out. Blake, is there anything in particular that you have coming up that you'd like to plug?
Andy, we're taking the week off next week because we got to start training. Because again, Jade, I mean, my goodness, it's just like I got to get on the treadmill. I got to start doing some ab crunches. Like I got a lot of work to do because my goodness, this woman is a specimen. But I don't know. We'll see. But no, like you said, lots going on over 411 Mania. I mean, we say it every week. Like I feel like we say this every time we talk about, but like how exciting is it to like be a wrestling fan right now? Because it's just there's so many great things going on, and I think it's just and we got another development tonight, right? It's like we get this Kenta thing now, and it's just my goodness, man, just there's so much good wrestling out there. So check
Yeah,
it
if you
all
would
out.
have told me a year and a half ago that we'd have Edge on NXT and Kenta on AEW, I would have slapped you, and then I would have been so thankful to be within slapping distance of another person. But nonetheless, great time to be a wrestling fan. And like you said, I have to go do some sit-ups, try to burn off this dessert wine because Jade made me feel bad about myself. So, ladies and gentlemen, thanks again for joining us here at Dissecting Dynamite. We'll see you in a couple weeks.